Chapter 1. Betrayal on Christmas Eve. My name is Ellie and I live in the prosperous but cold metropolis of the United States. On Christmas Eve, the city is wrapped tightly in the festive atmosphere. In the shop windows on both sides of the street, Santa Claus dolls are cute, colorful lights are flashing, and cheerful Christmas carols echo in the streets. I shuttled back and forth between the kitchen and the dining room, carefully preparing tonight's dinner. The roast turkey was sizzling in the oven, exuding an enticing aroma, and the side dishes were neatly arranged. I also baked David's favorite chocolate cookies and made a delicate strawberry mousse cake. Everything was ready. I sat at the dining table looking at the busy traffic outside the window, looking forward to David coming home early and spending this warm holiday with me. The clock hands moved slowly and the sky gradually darkened. The street lights outside the window were on and the dim light was reflected on the glass. I looked at the time and it was much later than David's usual time to get off work. I couldn't sit still any longer and I began to feel a little uneasy, but I still comforted myself that maybe he was delayed by work. After a while I finally couldn't hold back and picked up my phone to call David. After the phone beeped a few times, David's voice came from the other end. He sounded a little tired and anxious. "Dear, I'm really sorry, Ryan was suddenly hospitalized and the situation is quite serious. I have to go to take care of him and can't go back tonight." Hearing his words, my heart sank suddenly. The hand holding the phone tightened unconsciously and my lips moved. After a long time I tried to say as gently as possible, "Then you go take good care of him and take care of yourself." After hanging up the phone I stared blankly at the table full of food. The room that was warm just now seemed to have lost its temperature at this moment. At this time Ryan, who was sitting across the table, coughed lightly. I looked at him. He was sitting there in good condition with a ruddy face without any signs of illness. He seemed a little embarrassed, his eyes dodged, he scratched his head and asked, "He's not coming back again?" I took a deep breath and tried to keep my voice calm. "Yeah." Ryan hesitated and said, "Then can I not leave tonight?" I looked at him and it seemed like something in my heart collapsed. David's lies and Ryan's words made me realize that my marriage may have been riddled with holes. The trust one once had in David shattered like a bubble on Christmas Eve. David and I have been married for 5 years. At the beginning we met at a friend's party. He was humorous and caring for me. Soon we fell in love and got married. In the first 2 years after marriage our life was very happy. We traveled together, bought new furniture for the house together and planned the future together. But I don't know when David started to become busier and busier. He often worked overtime until late, and there were always various social events on weekends. I understood him at first and felt that he was working hard for our future. I kept the house in good order so that he could work without worries. But in recent months I felt something was wrong. He came home later and later and sometimes he didn't even come home at night. When I asked him he always said that he was too busy and too tired at work and fell asleep at the company. Although I had some doubts in my heart I still chose to believe him. After all, we are husband and wife and I don't want to suspect without reason. Unexpectedly, on this Christmas Eve that should have been warm, the truth was laid out in front of me in such a cruel way. David's lies and Ryan's existence made me feel like a fool. I have been kept in the dark for so long. I looked at Ryan and there was a hint of expectation and a hint of nervousness in his eyes. I suddenly realized that he might have different feelings for me. And I, at this moment, felt a surge of hatred in my heart. Since David can betray me, why can't I retaliate against him? I smiled at Ryan and said, "If you want to stay, stay." Ryan's eyes lit up. He didn't expect me to agree so straightforwardly. That night Ryan and I sat at the dining table, eating the dinner that was originally prepared for David. We chatted casually but my mind was not on it at all. I thought about David, thinking that he might be with that woman at this moment, laughing and talking but leaving me and this family behind. It was late at night and I lay in bed but I couldn't fall asleep. The moonlight outside the window sprinkled on the floor through the gaps in the curtains, forming a series of light and shadows. I looked at the ceiling and the hatred in my heart became stronger and stronger. I decided that from this moment on, I would no longer be the wife who was bullied by others, and I would make David pay for what he did. I want to use Ryan to let David also taste the taste of betrayal. Although I don't know if this plan will succeed, I have no other choice. This is my resistance to David's betrayal, and it is also the beginning of my regaining my dignity. I don't know what the future will be like, but I know that I have embarked on this road of revenge and can never turn back. Chapter 2: The truth gradually emerges. After Christmas Eve, every corner of the house was filled with the shadow of David's betrayal, which made me breathless. The wedding photos hanging on the wall, which used to be the witness of our happiness, now are like sharp knives, piercing my heart. Every time I see it, the scene of that night keeps replaying in my mind. David's lies and Ryan's strangeness make me more determined to uncover the truth. I began to pay attention to David's whereabouts quietly. Every day I would observe his every move after he went out. I found that he always drove straight out of the company after get-off work, but the direction was not the way home. On weekends he always had various excuses to go out, sometimes talking about business with clients, sometimes partying with friends. Every time I asked him, he could easily make up a seemingly reasonable reason, but his evasive eyes could not deceive me. So, I made up my mind to hire a private detective. I contacted a detective agency with a good reputation and met with the detective in a hidden cafe. He was a tall, sharp-eyed man wearing a dark suit and looking very capable. I told him in detail about David's abnormal behavior and what happened on Christmas Eve. He listened carefully, taking notes from time to time, and then looked at me and said, "Miss Ellie, don't worry, we will investigate it as soon as possible and give you the truth." While waiting for the news, Ryan and I contacted more and more frequently. We would have lunch together and go for a cup of coffee after get-off work. He always took good care of me, gave me a shoulder to lean on when I was sad, and laughed with me when I was happy. Every time I was with him, I could feel a long-lost warmth and care. Once we took a walk in the park together. The sun shone through the gaps in the leaves and sprinkled on the ground, forming patches of light. We walked slowly along the lake, surrounded by the laughter of children and the singing of birds. Ryan suddenly stopped and looked at me, his eyes full of tenderness and concern. "Ellie, I know you are very unhappy recently because of David's matter. If you are willing, I hope to stay with you and help you through this difficult time." I looked at him and a complex emotion surged in my heart, with touch and a trace of guilt. I knew that I was using his feelings for me to retaliate against David, but at that moment I could not resist his warmth. Finally, the private detective called and asked me to meet. I arrived at the agreed place with trepidation. He handed me a thick envelope containing photos and information of David and a woman. In the photos, David and the woman Lily went in and out of various places intimately. They held hands, had dinner together in the restaurant, went in and out of the hotel, and had happy smiles on their faces. They looked like a couple in love. Looking at these photos, my heart seemed to be deeply pierced by countless needles. I have paid so much for this family, but David is out there with other women, forgetting the vows we made to each other. I decided to use Ryan to take revenge on David. I began to approach Ryan more actively, showing my vulnerability and charm in front of him. I would cry in front of him about David's neglect of me, and cry about my pain and helplessness in this marriage. Whenever this happened, Ryan would hug me tightly and comfort me. His embrace made me feel warm, but I knew that all this was for revenge. I would also dress myself up carefully, put on the most beautiful clothes, put on exquisite makeup, and make myself radiant in front of Ryan. Ryan was really attracted to me, and the atmosphere between us became more and more ambiguous. Every time I saw him fascinated by me, I would feel a sense of revenge in my heart, as if I saw David's pain when he was betrayed. But in the dead of night, I would also feel confused about my behavior. I don't know if this use is mixed with real feelings. My feelings towards Ryan became more and more complicated. Sometimes I would be moved by his smile and touched by his concern, but sometimes I would remind myself that all this was to avenge David. I struggled with this contradictory emotion and didn't know where to go. At the same time, David's company's business seemed to have some problems. He began to become anxious, frowning every day when he came home, and phone calls came one after another. He always quarreled fiercely with people in the study, discussing funds and business matters. I pretended to care on the surface, but I was secretly happy in my heart, thinking that this was the retribution he deserved for betraying his family. But I didn't expect that his crisis would make our relationship more complicated and would also make my revenge plan face more challenges. I knew that from this moment on my life would change completely, and I was ready for everything that was coming. Chapter 3. The ambiguity heats up. As the days passed, the relationship between Ryan and I seemed to be drawn closer by an invisible hand. After get-off work every day, we were no longer satisfied with simple coffee time. We began to date frequently, go to see the latest movies, or walk around the lively night market and taste all kinds of food. It was a sunny weekend and we went to the city park together. The lawn in the park was like a huge green velvet carpet. Children were laughing and running on the grass. People flying kites pulled long lines and looked up at the colorful kites in the sky. Ryan held my hand and strolled on the winding path. The flowers on the roadside competed with each other and exuded bursts of sweet fragrance. We passed a small pond with sparkling water and ducks swimming leisurely in the water. Ryan stopped, took some breadcrumbs from his pocket and sprinkled them on the water. The ducks immediately swam over happily and scrambled for food. Looking at their cute appearance, I couldn't help laughing out loud. Ryan turned his head and looked at me. His eyes were filled with sunshine, tenderness and doting. We found a quiet corner to sit down, and Ryan took out the prepared picnic blanket and food from his backpack. We shared sandwiches and fruits while chatting. Ryan told me interesting stories from his childhood, saying that he was too nervous at the school sports meeting and fell down in the running competition, which made me laugh. I also told him about my experience of traveling with David. Those beautiful memories in the past at this moment are a little bitter. But Ryan always listened patiently, and when I was depressed, he gently held my hand and gave me strength. For dinner once, we chose a romantic Italian restaurant. The restaurant was softly lit, with retro oil paintings hanging on the walls, and melodious classical music flowing in the air. The waiter lit candles for us and the candlelight swayed, reflecting our faces. Ryan pulled out a chair for me and sat opposite me after I sat down. We ordered pasta and red wine. While waiting for the dishes to be served, Ryan suddenly held my hand. His hand was broad and warm and my heart skipped a beat. He looked at me seriously and said, "Ellie, the time I spent with you is the best moment of my life. I know our beginning is a little complicated, but I really hope to be with you forever." I looked at his sincere eyes and a ripple appeared in my heart. At that moment, I almost forgot my original intention of revenge and immersed myself in this warmth. I lowered my head slightly, avoiding his fiery gaze, and whispered, I also like the feeling of being with you." Ryan gently lifted my chin, let me look at him, and then slowly approached me. My heartbeat accelerated and my breathing became rapid. Just when his lips were about to touch me, I suddenly remembered the picture of David and Lily, and I was startled and stepped back suddenly. Ryan looked at me with some doubts. I smiled awkwardly and explained, "I'm sorry, I'm not fully ready yet." Ryan touched my head gently and said, "It's okay, I can wait for you, I don't want you to have any pressure." I looked at him gratefully, but my heart was full of contradictions. My feelings for Ryan were getting deeper and deeper, but I could never forget David's betrayal of me, and the idea of revenge was still burning in my heart. After that, although our relationship was still close, I could feel a trace of confusion in Ryan's heart. He didn't understand why I suddenly backed off at the critical moment when our relationship was heating up. In order to make up for it, I took the initiative to get along with him. We went to concerts together and participated in various outdoor activities together. Every time I saw him smile happily because of me, I felt more guilty. At the same time, the crisis of David's company became more serious. He was busy all day and came home later and later. Even when he came home, he was exhausted and fell asleep. He no longer cared about me as much as before and even rarely communicated with me. I looked at him without a trace of sympathy in my heart, but felt that this was the punishment he deserved. But I also knew that his predicament might affect my revenge plan, and I had to be more cautious and not let him notice my intentions. One night Ryan sent me home. At the door, he hugged me tightly again and said, "Ellie, no matter what happens, I hope you know that I will always be by your side." I leaned in his arms, feeling his warmth, and secretly swore in my heart that no matter what, I would not let him get hurt, even if my revenge plan would become more difficult. As time went by, my feelings for Ryan became deeper and deeper, and the ambiguity between us gradually turned into a strong love. But I know that behind this love, there is still my deep hatred for David, and this complex emotional entanglement is far from over and greater challenges are still waiting for us. Chapter 4. Unexpected episode. David's company is like a broken ship that is crumbling in a storm. The crisis of broken capital chain is like surging waves, one after another, beating him dizzy. He was in a hurry all day, his eyebrows were twisted into a knot, and his hair became messy due to frequent scratching. Every time I saw him in such a miserable state, I would feel a little happy, thinking that this was the retribution for his betrayal of his family. But I didn't expect that his crisis would make the relationship between him, Ryan, and me more complicated, and also bring unexpected changes to my revenge plan. That night, David dragged his heavy steps back home without even taking off his coat. He collapsed on the sofa, staring at the ceiling with empty eyes. I pretended to walk over casually and asked softly, "What's wrong? You look so tired." He smiled bitterly and shook his head, sighed and said, "The company's funding gap is too big. If we can't find money, I'm afraid we can't hold on." I was moved but pretended to be concerned and said, "Is there any way? Ask a friend to borrow money." David hesitated and said, "I thought about asking Ryan. He should have some spare money and we have been brothers for many years. He should help me." When I heard David mention Ryan, my heart tightened suddenly. If Ryan helped David, David's crisis might be alleviated, and he might continue to live happily with Lily. Wouldn't my revenge plan fail? But if Ryan refused, David would definitely doubt him and might even vent his anger on us. I had to come up with a countermeasure as soon as possible. The next day, Ryan asked me to meet at the cafe we often go to. He looked a little embarrassed. As soon as he saw me, he said, "Ellie, David asked me for help. He said that his company was having difficulty in cash flow and wanted to borrow a large sum of money from me. But I really don't know what to do." I looked at him and quickly thought about it in my mind. I gently held his hand and said, "Honey, I know this is very difficult for you. But think about it, how did he treat me before? He betrayed our marriage and now he is in trouble, so he wants to ask you for help. How can it be so easy?" Ryan frowned, his eyes full of struggle. "But he is my brother after all. If I don't help him, I will feel bad. And his company is in such a bad situation now. If I don't help him, he may really go bankrupt." I was anxious and said, "Ryan, you have to consider our future. We have finally come to this point and we can't let him ruin our lives. If he survives this crisis, he and Lily may continue to be together. What should we do then?" Ryan was silent. He lowered his head and his fingers kept tapping on the coffee cup. After a long while, he looked up, looked into my eyes and said, "Ellie, you're right. I can't ignore our future because of him. I will reject him." I breathed a sigh of relief, but I felt a little uneasy. I knew that doing so might completely infuriate David, but for revenge I couldn't care less. When Ryan rejected David, David was furious. He never thought that his good brother would not help him at this time. He immediately called Ryan and asked loudly on the phone, "Ryan, what do you mean? I treat you as a brother and now I'm in trouble, but you stand by and watch. Do you have any other thoughts?" Ryan tried to explain, but David didn't listen at all. He hung up the phone angrily and began to doubt the relationship between Ryan and me. David secretly sent someone to investigate us. It didn't take long for him to know that Ryan and I were together. He was so angry that his face turned red. He rushed to my house and questioned me. "Ellie, how could you get together with Ryan? You two dogs and bitches actually did this behind my back." I looked him in the eye without fear. "David, what qualifications do you have to say that? When you were fooling around with Lily outside, did you ever think about how I felt? The moment you betrayed me, our marriage was over." David was furious. He rushed over and tried to grab me. I took a step back and avoided his hand. He said viciously, "Okay, since you are so heartless, don't blame me for being rude. I won't let you have an easy time." After that, he slammed the door and left. I looked at his back as he left, feeling nervous and excited. I was nervous because I didn't know what crazy move he would make to retaliate against us. I was excited because my revenge plan seemed to be moving towards success step by step. At the same time, Lily also noticed David's predicament. She began to put pressure on David, hoping that he could solve the problem as soon as possible and maintain their luxurious life. One day, Lily suddenly came to my house. She was wearing a brand-name dress and had a delicate makeup, but her eyes were full of hostility. She looked at me and said, "Are you David's wife? You don't look that good. David doesn't love you anymore, so don't keep pestering him. Now his company is in trouble. If you have a conscience, you should find a way to help him instead of fooling around with Ryan." I looked at her and a surge of anger surged in my heart, but I still said calmly, "Lily, do you think you can stay with David for a long time? He can betray me today and you tomorrow. You're just a plaything in his life. Now that he is down and out, you are anxious. What have you been doing before?" Lily was so angry that her face turned red. She rushed over to hit me. I grabbed her wrist and said, "You'd better not mess around, otherwise you will suffer." Lily struggled for a few times, but when she couldn't get away, she had to say viciously, "Just wait, I won't let you go." After that, she turned and left. I sat on the sofa feeling a little tired. This battle of revenge is far more complicated and difficult than I imagined. David and Lily's counterattacks overwhelmed me, but I knew I couldn't back down. I had to keep going until David paid a heavy price for what he had done. In the process, my relationship with Ryan also faced a huge test. I don't know if we can work together to overcome these difficulties and usher in our future. Chapter 5. Emotional Entanglement. As Ryan and I became more and more emotional, life was like a seasoning bottle that had been overturned. Sweetness and contradiction, guilt and determination, all kinds of flavors intertwined, often making me fall into confusion and struggle. We spent many romantic times together. On a starry night, we climbed to the highest roof in the city, lay on a worn but soft blanket, and quietly looked at the bright starry sky. The bright lights of the city in the distance reflected the stars above our heads, like a beautiful painting. Ryan gently held my hand, his fingers were slender and warm, and he said, "Ellie, look, this starry sky is like our future, full of infinite possibilities. No matter what happens, I want to go on with you." At that moment, the love in my heart surged like a tide, almost drowning me. I held his hand tightly and nodded in agreement. Another time, we wandered in a small second-hand bookstore. The store was filled with the unique scent of ink from old books, and the sun shone through the window onto the rows of bookshelves. We shuttled between the bookshelves, pulling out a book from time to time, sharing interesting passages in the book and our own feelings. Unconsciously, we found an old poetry collection that we both liked in a corner. Our hands touched the book at the same time and we smiled at each other. The tacit understanding and joy made me feel the beauty of love. However, happy times are always short. Whenever it is late at night and I am alone, the contradictions in my heart will grow like weeds. I often ask myself, how much of my feelings for Ryan are sincere, and how much are the accessories of revenge against David? I am afraid that I am just using Ryan and afraid of hurting him, but the idea of revenge is like a seed rooted in my heart, which is difficult to remove. One night, Ryan and I fell asleep in each other's arms. In my sleep, I suddenly dreamed of the intimate scene of David and Lily. They held hands and had smug smiles on their faces as if laughing at my stupidity. I woke up suddenly, cold sweat soaked my pajamas, and my heart was still beating violently in my chest. Ryan was awakened by me. He opened his eyes dazedly. Seeing my frightened look, he immediately sat up, hugged me tightly in his arms and asked with concern, "Ellie, what's wrong with you? Did you have a nightmare?" I leaned in his arms, listening to his steady heartbeat, and the fear in my heart gradually subsided, but was replaced by deep guilt. I dared not tell him that the root of this nightmare was my concealment and exploitation of him. Just when I was troubled by emotional problems, Lily came to my door. That day I was doing housework at home and the doorbell suddenly rang urgently. I opened the door and saw Lily standing at the door. She was wearing a tight dress, high heels, and delicate makeup, but her eyes were full of provocation. She looked me up and down, then sneered and said, "You are David's wife? You are not that good. David has stopped loving you a long time ago, so stop pestering him." I was furious, but I still suppressed it and said calmly, "Lily, do you think you can stay with David forever? He can betray me today and you tomorrow. You are just a temporary novelty for him." Lily said disdainfully, "Don't be so hypocritical. David loves me and you are just an abandoned woman. Now his company is in trouble. If you still have a conscience, find a way to help him instead of fooling around with Ryan." I looked at her, and the anger in my heart could no longer be suppressed. I took a step forward, looked into her eyes and said, "What qualifications do you have to blame me? You knew David had a family, but you were still with him. You are the third party who destroyed other people's families. Do you think David will give up everything for you? When his novelty wears off, you will be nothing." Lily was so angry that her face turned red. She reached out to hit me. I grabbed her wrist and shook it off, saying, "You'd better not mess around or you will regret it." Lily glared at me fiercely and said, "Just wait, I won't let you go." After that she turned and left. After Lily left, I sat on the sofa and my heart couldn't calm down for a long time. This quarrel made me more determined to take revenge, but at the same time, it also put my relationship with Ryan into a deeper crisis. Because of my revenge plan, Ryan was also involved in this storm and he might be hurt because of me. I began to worry whether our relationship could withstand the test of this storm. I know that I must make a decision as soon as possible, whether to continue to pursue revenge or let go of hatred and cherish the relationship with Ryan. But this decision is too difficult. On one hand, there is the hatred brought by years of marital betrayal, and on the other hand, there is the sincere and complicated love between Ryan and me. Every time I think of this, my heart hurts as if it is torn apart. I tried to have a frank talk with Ryan, but every time the words came to my lips, I swallowed them back. I was afraid to see his disappointed eyes and afraid to lose him. During this period of time, I often sat by the window alone, looking at the busy streets outside, thinking about my future. I know that no matter what decision I make, it will change my life and Ryan's life. And this emotional entanglement is like a mess. The more I sort it out, the more chaotic it is. I don't know if I can find the thread to untie it. Chapter 6. Dangers are everywhere. David was like an enraged beast. After discovering the relationship between me and Ryan, he completely lost his mind. His eyes were burning with anger and unwillingness, and every move was full of aggression, as if he wanted to devour Ryan and me. That day he rushed into the house with great momentum and kicked open the half-closed door. The door hit the wall with a loud noise, which frightened me and made me tremble all over. His face was red, veins on his forehead were bulging, and he stepped in front of me, pointed his finger at my nose and roared, "Ellie, you bitch! You are actually with Ryan, are you worthy of me?" I met his gaze without fear, straightened my back and responded loudly, "David, you have no right to say me. When you and Lily were fooling around outside, did you ever think about being worthy of me?" David's eyes widened, his chest rose and fell violently, as if he was going to rush up and attack in the next second. His fists were clenched tightly and his knuckles turned white because of the force. I subconsciously took a step back but still stared at him stubbornly. At this moment Ryan happened to arrive. Seeing the tense scene, he immediately rushed over, stood in front of me and shouted to David, "David, calm down. If you have anything to say, talk it over, don't fight." David was even more furious when he saw Ryan. He pounced on Ryan and the two wrestled together. I screamed in horror and wanted to pull them apart, but I couldn't get involved at all. The furniture in the living room was knocked over and over, and the vase fell to the ground and shattered into glass shards. In the chaos, Ryan's mouth corner was bleeding from David's beating, and David's face was also scratched by Ryan. It was not easy for me to separate them. David panted and said viciously, "Ryan, you traitor. I treat you as a brother, but you robbed my woman. I won't let you go." After that he turned around and slammed the door. Ryan wiped the blood from the corner of his mouth and asked me with concern if I was injured. I looked at him and my heart was moved and worried. I was moved that he did not hesitate to protect me in a dangerous moment, and I was worried that David would not give up, and we might not have peace in the days to come. David really didn't stop there. He began to slander me on various occasions. In front of our mutual friends and in Ryan's social circle, he said that I was a shameless and ulterior motive woman who deliberately seduced Ryan for revenge. He exaggerated our relationship and described me as an unforgivable villain. These words soon reached Ryan's ears. At first Ryan didn't care. He chose to believe me. But as the rumors became more and more, the strange eyes and whispers of people around him still made him waver. He began to have some doubts about me, and there was a hint of hesitation in his eyes when he looked at me. One night we sat on the sofa and the atmosphere was extremely dull. Ryan suddenly said, "Ellie, I have heard a lot of rumors about us recently. I know that most of them are spread by David, but I still want to know how much of your being with me is true, and how much is it to retaliate against David." I looked at him and my heart was stabbed. I knew that this problem would come sooner or later, but I didn't expect it to be so soon. I took a deep breath and said, "Ryan, at first I did approach you to get revenge on David, but in the process of getting along with you, I really fell in love with you. I know that I was selfish and took advantage of you, but my feelings for you are real, without a trace of falsehood." Ryan was silent. He lowered his head and held his head in his hands. After a long time he raised his head and said, "Ellie, I believe your feelings for me are real, but this incident has a huge impact on me. I need time to digest and accept all this." I looked at him. My heart was full of fear. I was afraid that he would leave me because of these rumors and suspicions. At the same time, David was still trying his best to destroy our lives. He began to call and text Ryan frequently, constantly harassing him, trying to separate Ryan and me. He even threatened Ryan that if he didn't leave me, he would make him unable to survive in this city. Ryan's work and life were seriously affected. He became exhausted and smiled less and less. And I, in order to maintain our relationship, was also trying to deal with all this. I explained to our friends everywhere and clarified the facts, hoping to save some reputation. I also kept comforting Ryan, telling him that we would definitely get through this difficult time. But every time I saw his tired look, my heart felt like it was being cut by a knife. In the process, I also realized that my revenge plan was no longer simply to let David taste the taste of betrayal. This war has gone out of control and hurt too many people, including Ryan, who I care about the most. I began to reflect on my behavior, whether I was too impulsive and selfish, and ignored the feelings of others for my own hatred. But it seems too late to stop now. David will not let us go easily, and we can only bite the bullet and continue to move forward, facing unknown challenges. I don't know when this crisis will end and whether our feelings can survive this storm. Chapter 7: Jedi Counterattack. On that fateful night, the city was enveloped in the thick darkness, and the street lights emitted a dim halo, stretching our figures very long. Ryan and I stood in front of the lawn where we first revealed our feelings. The surroundings were quiet and silent, with only the rustling sound of the breeze blowing through the leaves. I looked at Ryan, took a deep breath, and prepared to reveal all the secrets in my heart. Ryan, my voice trembled slightly. I know David said a lot of bad things about me to you and you may be full of doubts about me now. But I must let you know that at the beginning of everything, I did approach you for the purpose of revenge against David. His ruthless betrayal made me overwhelmed with anger and pain, and I just wanted him to taste the taste of betrayal. I paused, looked into Ryan's eyes, trying to catch a trace of understanding from his eyes. But every day and every moment with you, those laughter and company, made me fall in love with you unknowingly. This feeling is something I never expected in this chaos. It is real and passionate. Ryan listened quietly, the moonlight sprinkled on his face, outlining his well-defined profile. I couldn't see his expression, I could only hear his heavy breathing. After a long time he slowly spoke. Ellie, I have been very conflicted during this period. David's words are like a thorn in my heart. But the little things I have experienced with you make it difficult for me to easily believe his one-sided words. I can feel your care for me, and the tenderness that is inadvertently revealed is not fake. He stepped forward and held my hand. I choose to believe you in our feelings. At that moment my eyes were wet and my heart was filled with emotion and guilt. I was moved by Ryan's trust and guilty for my past use. But at the same time I was more determined to fight back against David. For our future, David could no longer be allowed to destroy it wantonly. Since then we began to secretly collect evidence of David's commercial violations. Ryan used his former brotherly relationship with David to pretend to reconcile and approach David, trying to get some useful information from him. And I contacted some former employees of David's company through various connections to get inside information from them. Once, Ryan attended a party organized by David. At the party, David got drunk and started complaining about his experience, revealing some clues of the company's financial fraud. Ryan calmly guided him to continue talking, and quietly turned on the recording on his mobile phone. After returning home we listened to the recording repeatedly, and the fire of hope ignited in our hearts. On my side I also made great gains. A former financial director of David's company was dissatisfied with some of David's practices and was willing to provide me with the illegal evidence he had. He handed me an encrypted file that detailed the accounting problems of David's company over the years, including tax evasion, false transactions, etc. After getting the evidence, we did not act rashly. We knew that David was a cunning person and would definitely try his best to exonerate himself. So we found an experienced lawyer and consulted him on how to legally hand over the evidence to the relevant departments to ensure that David received the punishment he deserved. After carefully studying the evidence we provided, the lawyer told us that the evidence was enough to make David face serious legal consequences. But before submitting it, it needed to be further sorted and improved. Under the guidance of the lawyer, we spent several weeks classifying and numbering all the evidence and produced a complete report. At the same time, we did not forget to expose David's cheating behavior in his social circle. We anonymously spread the intimate photos of David and Lily and their love affairs. For a time, David became the object of everyone's scorn. His friends kept their distance from him, and his business partners began to re-examine their cooperation with him. David noticed our actions and became more crazy. He tried to find the source of evidence and attacked Ryan and me more fiercely. He sent people to follow us, installed bugs in our cars, and even threatened our friends. But we were not intimidated by his threats. Instead, we became more cautious and accelerated the pace of counterattack. Finally, everything was ready. We anonymously handed over the organized evidence to the relevant departments and revealed David's scandal to the media. Soon, David was investigated by the police. The company's stock price plummeted and partners withdrew their capital. Lily saw that David was in a desperate situation and abandoned him without hesitation and disappeared without a trace. David went from being a successful entrepreneur to being a street rat that everyone wanted to beat. He tried to defend himself, but in the face of overwhelming evidence, it was all in vain. Looking at his miserable appearance, I felt no pleasure in my heart, only relief. This long battle of revenge finally came to an end, and Ryan and I also strengthened our feelings for each other in this storm. Chapter 8. Ending. David's world collapsed completely, and the prosperity and glory that once surrounded him quickly dissipated like bubbles. The company went bankrupt and liquidated, and he was burdened with huge debts. Those business partners who once flattered him now avoided him, and some even took advantage of his misfortune to squeeze the last bit of value from him. He drank all day to drown his sorrows and fell drunk in a dim apartment with a scruffy beard and empty eyes. The vigor and vitality he once had were long gone. One day I met him by chance on the street. He was hunched over and staggered like an old man in his twilight years. When he saw me, he was stunned for a moment, then lowered his head as if he didn't dare to look me in the eye. At that moment I felt mixed emotions in my heart. The love and hatred I once had turned into a sigh at this moment. I walked up and whispered, "David, everything is over. You should be responsible for your actions." He raised his head, his eyes full of regret. "Ellie, I was wrong, I was really wrong." I didn't say anything more, turned around and left. This broken marriage and those painful pasts could finally be completely put down. After experiencing this thrilling battle of revenge, Ryan and I have a deeper relationship. We have faced countless crises and challenges together. These experiences have made us understand each other better and filled us with confidence in the future. We decided to leave this city full of painful memories and go to a quiet town to start a new life. When I was packing my luggage and preparing to leave, I turned out the old photo album. Looking at the photos that once recorded the happy times of David and me, there was no more ripples in my heart. I gently stroked the photos and put them at the bottom of the box. Although those memories are beautiful, they have become the past. I want to look forward and embrace a new life. Ryan came over and hugged me gently. "Ellie, don't think too much, our future will be very beautiful." I leaned in his arms, feeling his warm embrace, and my heart was full of expectations for the future. We drove and slowly drove away from the city. Looking at the familiar streets and buildings outside the car window gradually going away, I felt an unprecedented sense of relief in my heart. This city has witnessed my pain and struggle, and also witnessed my growth and transformation. Now I am finally going to say goodbye to the past and welcome a new beginning. Along the way, the sun shone on us through the car window, warm and bright. Ryan hummed softly while driving. Although his singing was not beautiful, it made me feel very at ease. We occasionally talked about future plans and imagined life in the small town. We planned to open a small coffee shop filled with books and flowers, providing customers with delicious coffee and warm service every day. After a few hours of driving, we finally arrived at the quiet town. The streets of the town are lined with tall trees, and the sun shines through the gaps in the leaves onto the ground, forming patches of light. There are some quaint little houses on the street, each with a small garden full of colorful flowers. The air here is fresh, filled with the fragrance of soil and flowers, which is completely different from the hustle and bustle of the city. We rented a house in the center of the town. Although the house is not big, it is full of warmth. We cleaned the room together, arranged the furniture, and turned it into our home. Looking at the brand new room, my heart was filled with joy. This will be the starting point of our new life. The days in the town are peaceful and beautiful. Our coffee shop opens smoothly and many customers visit every day. Everyone likes the atmosphere in our store and likes to chat with us. Here we have made many new friends who are kind and enthusiastic, making us feel the warmth of home. Ryan gets up early every day and goes to the market to buy the freshest coffee beans and ingredients. He grinds the coffee beans carefully and brews cups of fragrant coffee. And I will greet customers in the store and recommend delicious snacks to them. We worked together, laughed together, and lived a simple and fulfilling life. In the evening, we would walk hand in hand on the streets of the town. The moonlight would shine on us and we would share the fun of the day, or quietly enjoy each other's company. Here there is no betrayal, no hatred, only love and care for each other. Looking back, I am grateful for that painful experience, which made me stronger and taught me to cherish the people in front of me. My love with Ryan has become more indestructible after being baptized by wind and rain. The road ahead is still long and there may be new challenges and difficulties, but I believe that as long as we hold hands, we will be able to overcome every difficulty and welcome our happy life.